Hi there, I am Sarah Jane Case, and I'm the host of your new favorite show, Enneagram and Coffee. This podcast is dedicated to discussing the beautiful and hard parts of being human. We discuss the Enneagram, a personality map that is taking over the world, for increased self-compassion, personal growth, and healthier relationships. Listen to Enneagram and Coffee on the iHeart app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Sophie Renast infiltrates the Kavalla death camps to liberate her brother Emile. Her efforts result in the rescue of Emile and a dozen other children. With the assistance of Agent Silverbow, they run for their lives as the Hind and her dreadwolves pursue. Sophie sacrifices herself to ensure her brother's safety, which ends in her meeting a watery grave. Back in Lunathion, Bryce, Hunt, and her parents attend the debut of Juniper Andromeda at the CCB Ballet. Despite her struggles with PTSD and the unwanted attention her Starborn status brings, Bryce and Hunt make their way to Ruhn's boisterous party. Despite all the liveliness around them, Bryce and Hunt face a harsh reality with the news of a new Archangel governor.
The views expressed by the hosts are entirely their own and in no way represent the thoughts or intentions of the original author.
This podcast is a discussion, shared to spark thought and conversation on the characters and themes of this novel.
The interpretations presented in this podcast are just a few of many possibilities. Listeners are encouraged to read along and share their own analysis of the text.
Though the hosts speak mostly within the constraints of this book, series and extended universe spoilers may be discussed with or without warning.
Explicit language, as well as themes of sex, violence, abuse, depression, self-harm, and death will recur throughout this podcast. Listener discretion is advised.
If you are enjoying the podcast, check out our Patreon for more exclusive content. You can find us at patreon.com/Book Talk for Book Talk.
We're back.
Yeah, this is surreal.
We're back and we're on camera. Do I look at you? Do I look at you? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm going to have a hard time. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
I have no idea. Wherever the hell I look best at. Let's be real.
Honestly, we can't even see ourselves well enough on the camera to know if we're getting our good angles.
I guarantee I will hate it no matter what.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Welcome back to Book Talk for Book Talk with Jac and Amy, and where we begin our literary analysis of the second installment of Sarah J. Maas's Crescent City series, House of Sky and Breath.
Woo, woo.
Woo. No, we're on camera now. We can it's capturing what you're doing with your hands.
If you're a regular, you'll have noticed that over the last few months, we've done some branding updates. From a slightly new title, new cover art, and a refresh to our website and Patreon. We're turning over a beautiful new leaf, you could say. Although it's not like our leaf was that bad to begin with.
Our leaf was perfectly fine.
We just decided it needed a refresh anyway.
Yeah.
And if you haven't already, check us out. The links for all of the things I mentioned are in our show notes.
If you're new to us, let's catch you up. Each season, we cover one book and conduct an in-depth literary analysis. We pick two literary lenses through which we review the text, providing two different perspectives of interpretation. Mind you, these are just two of many, many different interpretations.
When we do a literary analysis, we take everything at face value and find ways to link the clues in the text together. We're basically like your high school or college literature class, but a podcast, and therefore more fun. We won't cold call on you. We will do our best to analyze this book in its own silo.
Cold call. They call them in. I know what it is, but I was like, call them in the middle of the night. Be like, have you listened to this week's episode? However, though, this is a big however, now that House of Flame and Shadow is out, and it's been out for a little while now, we will not hold back on any series or extended universe spoilers. We are talking about it all. And consider this your only spoiler warning. I will make this super clear. We are talking all Crescent City. We will pull in things from ACOTAR and
Throne of Glass.
You're lucky that I don't remember Throne of Glass.
But I do.
Yeah, so if it makes sense, it makes sense. We'll pull it in. If you're asking yourselves, is this safe? I haven't read X, Y, and Z. I genuinely can't promise anything.
And please, don't forget this warning, because sometimes We see your comments.
We do. Like, this is it. We can't do this again. Not every episode, not the start of every episode. So please,
you have been warned.
You have been warned. At the end of each episode, we will continue to do breadcrumbs of the book.
So, as Jac mentioned, we will bring in ACOTAR. So, if you haven't listened to seasons 1 through 4, where we did analysis of SJM's A Court of Thorns and Roses series, you should go back. Listen to it. We cover Thorns and Roses through Frost and Starlight. Now, you might be asking, what about Silver Flames? Well, I'm happy to report that it is on our docket, and we will be reviewing it beginning January 2025.
May everyone be squealing in their seats right now.
If they didn't already know.
If they didn't already know. Now, let's discuss what type of literary lenses that we're going to be using. I'm Jac, and I am back with our feminist lens. I love a good old feminist lens. And I'm going to be analyzing the text through heterogender norms and stereotypes. And I need to make this clear. It does not reflect my own personal views on gender. And this is literally just going to be a tool it's literally just a literary lens. I'm just using it as a tool to discuss different aspects of this novel.
I'm Amy, and as usual, I will provide my analysis through a Marxist lens. I'll view different power dynamics among the characters and the world itself. Sometimes this is going to be obvious in, the form of class, socioeconomic status, and sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's in food and metaphors and animal traits and physical positions. And all of those things lend itself to the Marxist lens.
Remember, though, this podcast is just our interpretation of the text, and we in no way, shape, or form think that this is the only way you can analyze something or the only lens you can use to analyze it with. And you can use almost every lens, really, to look at this book and this whole series. So please feel free to read along with us and tell us your interpretation.
And if you're wondering why we're not changing our lenses, I'm sorry. It's just, I think SJM is so good. There's so much content for these lenses.
That's why.
I'm
not lazy at all.
We're not just very comfortable.
The thing is, she is consistent, and it is, you know what? Why'd you bring that up?
We can cut it.
No, we're keeping it. Someone might be asking, wow, that's the same lens. Yeah.
Every season.
Yeah, okay. I don't want to have to go remember everything else.
I also think they're the most interesting.
I do enjoy it. My little feminist TED talk that I will always inevitably go on. And you love a good food is power.
I love food is power.
Yeah, yep.
Now, everyone can do a literary analysis. We're not gatekeeping how to do it or what's the right way to do it. Whether you have college experience or no college experience, every single one of you can do a literary analysis, and we encourage you to do so. So let us use our insane amount of college debt to help you get started, and hopefully you're inspired to go research what these lenses are, what a literary analysis is, and you tell us how we're wrong in the future.
I was about to say, I don't want to brag, but I'm going to. We have been quoted in a number of people's papers.
Wow.
I know.
That's so weird.
We've been cited. In a good way.
No, I mean, that's so cool, but surreal. I've said that twice now.
It is surreal. I choose not to think about it too much.
Yeah, I have to compartmentalize.
Yeah, I'm like, this is, you've heard of us?
You know my name.
Do you listen? So I'm Jac, in case you haven't picked up from this. I don't know. I'm Jac. Hi. I'm an avid reader. I'm a lover of smut and writer with a book on the way. I've loved literary analysis since high school, before I even knew what I was doing. I thought I was just judging.
That would be right up your alley.
Right? I mean, that's all we're doing, is we're just judging a book, but like with class. And it was honestly, literature was the only class I liked. And I did my bachelor's in creative writing at Arizona State University, and then I did my master's in London in comparative literature at Queen Mary University of London.
I'm Amy, a reader, writer, and passionate literary analyst. Analyst? Wow.
And typer.
Let me read that again. Okay. I'm Amy, a reader, writer, and passionate literary analyst. I almost did it again. You might as well keep both. I'm an adrenaline seeker, by which I mean I devour smutty textbooks on my daily commute, which has now become on the train. I will listen to smut while I'm on the train.
While smelling urine.
Well, no, I try not to.
Yeah. And try not to smell urine, of course. We all try.
And I'm always looking for new recommendations, and by devour, I do mean 2-speed. I listen to everything on 2-speed. I met Jac when we attended the same creative writing bachelor's program, after which I received my master's in education.
This week, we're discussing the prologue through chapter 2 of A House of Sky and Breath. We have, I think you said there's like 14 pages of notes.
I'm pretty sure it's longer than that. Let's see.
Oh my God, I thought you promised me 14.
No, I did not. I said nothing. It is 16. We did talk about 16.
We did. I said, I literally said before this saying, thank God it's not 16 pages. That ends up being a long time. Okay. So yeah, I just wanted to put that little note out there because, leave us alone, please. Please don't be mean to us. That's all I ask. So let's get started. Themes we're going to see in this book include destiny and discovery of self.
The question we're going to ask ourselves this week is, do we believe the transition from earth and blood to sky and breath?
Themes we're going to see in this section include PTSD and withholding of information.
It's like they didn't read Earth and Blood.
Their own books of themselves.
Yeah.
It's like they didn't go to therapy and actively think about not going to therapy.
That's right. That's right.
Yep. So we start off in the prologue, and SJM makes such a choice by saying, hey, we're back, and I'm not going to talk about a single character you know.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
We are introduced with a new character, new high stakes, and that's going to be Sophie Renast, if you don't know what I'm talking about. And reasons to do this is, one, I believe, to flag the reader that this is going to be a different style of book, that we're going to get new different point of views and perspectives of the book, and that it's not all about Bryce.
What? It's not all about Bryce?
I will make a Taylor Swift joke later, so.
Okay.
Yeah. Enter Sophie, a character that we will only meet for a few moments, but she's basically going to influence this entire book and what's to come. So she's similar to Danica, where she has a lot of secrets. A lot of things are revolving around her.
Mm-hmm.
She knew Danica, which is another big thing.
We don't know that at this point, technically.
No, but I'm just like letting everyone know that,
Yeah.
Sophie's a big player in this book. And stylistically, what SJM is doing is that she's setting herself up, SJM is setting herself up to write such a difficult prologue, because you're trying to make a reader who hasn't had this book in a long time. They're really excited. They just want to go back to the characters they love. And you're now going to introduce a character that no one knows.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to make us care about her and her cause.
Mm-hmm.
Why should I care about a child in a camp?
Oh my gosh.
Okay, I do care. But why should I care about Sophie and all the things that she's working towards?
Yeah.
And why should I care when she dies? These are really hard things to do and to make the stakes high immediately.
Yeah.
It's hard.
It is hard. And she does it.
She manages it because she's talented.
Yeah. Yep.
Now, to make that joke that I know you were hinting at, it's not all about Bryce. You say everything's not about me, but what if it is?
But what if it is?
Dun, dun, dun. I feel like when I was reading this, it became super clear. Literally the first few lines, I was like, damn, Sophie is meant to represent Bryce. I think SJM does a lot of work to link the two.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just going to list a few of them. One, we have Bryce and Sophie aren't full veneer. They're both humans in many ways.
Veneer.
We're back with the same season, with a new season, same shit. Veneer. Both are going to be sisters to Emile.
That's a really good point.
Thank you. And both are considered pure power. Both of their powers are pure power.
Yeah.
Sophie is pure power and Bryce is pure light, basically. And both are willing to ignore their boyfriends for the greater good. And, that's just an impressive thing. It's a great trait to have.
Self-sacrificing.
So brave. And there's going to be a lot of examples coming up, and I'll point them out along the way. I just wanted to kind of get that up front, saying like, okay, Sophie and Bryce are the same. One of the first examples I'm going to bring to the table is this quote. Quote, "She spent the years since learning to wear her humanity like a cloak, inside and out. She might not have all of the traits of the Vanir, but she'll never be Vanir. Not in her heart, not in her soul." And that is basically what Bryce was struggling with in book 1, is going to discover in book 2, and is going to be her mission in book 3.
Yeah, that's a great point. What I like about Sophie and Bryce's connection, and this is the first time, mind you, that I've noticed that connection. I didn't necessarily notice it in past rereads. It was just
now because
we're analyzing it.
Yeah,
is that Sophie uses humanity as a tool. She weaponizes it against the Vanir. And I think we saw that from Bryce as well in Earth and Blood. And it's kind of been taken away from her in a lot of ways when we enter Sky and Breath.
Yeah.
And I think she misses that. And hopefully we get to see that again.
It's almost like Sophie's going to be a reminder of humanity.
Yeah.
Because you're right. Like, Bryce has been thrusted into this book of, like, you are now Vanir. You made the drop. You're a princess. You're a Fae princess. Like, goodbye, humanity. This is who you are.
Yeah.
And, you know, maybe the story and her journey of tracking down Emile is the tracking down of her humanity and the strength of that.
Yeah. Now, before we dive into the actual content of the prologue, let's talk about the first sentence, since this is a new book and SJM still has to do the work to grab our attention, especially since we're not starting with Bryce and Hunt. Quote, "Sophie had survived in the Kavalla death camp for 2 weeks." I mean, that's pretty gripping. We're dealing with death camps.
Yeah.
And this Sophie, whoever she may be, seems pretty invincible for her to have survived for 2 weeks.
Yeah. But also, like, 2 weeks.
2 weeks, but we don't have any context right now.
No context, but, like, you know, it was like, all right, you can try harder. You can be there for more weeks.
No.
So
no
Emile
death camps.
was there for 2 years.
3 years.
3.
That's
even more than 2.
That's a lot. I do want to point out, though, that we're going to see a lot of bookending. And in this prologue itself, we see the bookending of Sophie surviving the death camp and then Sophie essentially being killed.
Yeah.
So much for surviving the death camp, because the second she's out of it, she gets murdered.
Death camp saved her. That's not what.
No, it did not.
No, it's bad. We just need her to kill her.
We just need her to kill her.
Yeah.
Wow.
SJM. Plot device.
Yep.
But not a bad. I think all books are going to have a plot device.
Sophie's done well.
Yep.
Because there's a lot of reasons why we think Sophie might be alive by the end of this prologue.
Sometimes I still question it. No, I know she's dead.
However, but if you're reading this for the first time, you're convinced she's still alive.
Yep, it's true. It's like SJM was like, okay, I need to make another shocking death. Here's one. you know, but it's still not as shocking as a Danica death.
No.
Yep. When we meet Emile, I feel like there's a lot of religious imagery surrounding him. And this is something that SJM loves to do. SJM loves to pull not just from Christianity, but religions, all of the religions, and even a lot of like Greek mythology too. And we're going to see that here, and we're going to see that coming up. You know, I'll be frank. I'll find the Christian religion imagery because that's the one that I'm most familiar with. So I really love it when listeners send in different perspectives and different religious imagery that I might have missed.
Right. Especially since SJM herself is Jewish.
Yeah.
And we have some knowledge of Jewish imagery, but not a lot.
I know what I know. I'm sorry. I'll do better.
We have a limited lens.
Yeah. So I'm going to read this quote. I just don't know.
You should just read it instead of...
Her 13-year-old brother, who now stood watch over them like a shepherd with his flock. And that's Emile with the other kids that he's saving, that he refuses to leave. He is determined to take them with him and Sophie. And to me, it's serving Jesus. It's giving, savior. And funny enough, that's actually what Sophie needs Ophian to believe, right? That he is a savior. So we and that's what we get throughout the book, right? Is that he's this powerful weapon. He's the savior. And all he ends up doing is being a child and human. And I feel like one of the things I'm going to talk a lot about in this first chapter and maybe throughout the whole book is the downfall of religion.
I also have to point out, in case you didn't catch it, there are 12 other children with him.
I did not catch it.
Christ's 12 disciples.
It's giving Christ.
It's giving, yeah, it is. It's so weird.
It's weird or done on purpose.
Totally done on purpose.
You can't tell me that it's not.
Yeah, I agree.
So getting Emile out is Sophie's goal, but Pippa, who we kind of meet a little bit here, who's in charge of Orpheon, Ophion. By episode 15, we'll be there. She's in charge of Ophion, and they're like, Emile, this is the moment that Emile becomes one of the plots of like, this child is everyone's goal. And it turns out, spoiler, at the end, Emile is just a human. Just if you didn't notice what I said before, he is a human. There is nothing that is quote unquote special about him, and I feel like it also mimics the fact that the Steri aren't gods, like they kind of set themselves up to be, that they do have a way of bringing them down. And like I said, that this idea of this book for me explores religion. It explores the downfall of religion and like removing these idolized figures, these godlike figures.
To me, it's not just about the downfall of, let's say, organized religion. It's the downfall of false narratives. The false narratives that those in power develop to continue to oppress everyone else.
No, I'm saying it's a downfall of gods, and I think people are gods, and I think that granted, we're literally on page 2. But I feel like this is a book where I think we said something, remind me, but didn't we say that like we could tell in book 1 in Earth and Blood, it felt like there was kind of like a grappling with religion on SJM's part.
Yeah. Yep.
To me, this reads, and this is such an assumption about SJM. This is not me guessing anything about SJM, so or is. Well, I want to make a guess, but I don't want to make a guess about her. Like, okay. I'm making a guess about the author. And in my mind, it's separate from SJM. Okay. So, like, I don't want to say, like, Sarah, this is what you went through.
Right.
I'm going to talk about the author as if it's, like, this third person.
Well, yeah. And okay, say what you're going to say.
It feels like someone who has decided that, like, if book 1 is their grappling with religion, book 2 is the realization that, like, maybe the gods or God or something that they believed in isn't true.
Yeah. I completely agree. And that can be a theme explored in the book without it being SJM's reality.
Exactly.
Right? That could just be because the Asteri are godlike and people believe them to be gods. And so you go through a reckoning internally when you question your god.
Yep.
And we're seeing a very personal experience of grappling with that and then deciding, yep, this is not for me anymore.
It's not it.
Yep.
So, people might be like, hey, Jac, you're reaching. And that's fine. That's literally the point of this podcast. If you don't like it, this isn't for you. Because we be reaching. But let me look at Ophion. Is that right?
Ophion, yeah.
Fuck yeah. Damn, I'm not cursing. Let's look at Ophion and who they're the ones who's supposed to be fighting for humans, right? They're supposed to be the quote unquote good guys, and we find out pretty quickly that they're assholes too. Like they're just kind of part of the problem in a different way.
Yep.
Ophion, such an interesting choice of a name.
Yeah.
And SJM loves picking her names. She loves meaning behind her names, and I'm going to look into the meaning of Ophion. So in Greek mythology, Ophion was the ruler of the world with, not going to say that name, Eurynome. And they were brought down by Cronus and Rhea. And this is like, the story of the Titans and everything. This is like before Zeus and everything. And funny enough, like Zeus then brings down Cronus and Rhea. That's like lightning. So I just want to point that out. But like, it's just an example. Ophion is another, like, in Greek mythology was just another god brought down.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. We did talk about this a little bit in the previous season when we talked about Earth and Blood. I also want to remind our listeners, if you don't remember what we talked about in Earth and Blood, Ophion's also a breed of wasps that are nocturnal, parasitic, and are attracted to light, which, what does that make me think of? Pippa's Lightfall soldiers.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So though they are disguised as doing good for humans, they are parasites. And, you know, that's not a good thing for humanity. It degrades the value of humanity in the eyes of the veneer. Oh, wow. I just did a U.
Hell yeah. You did a U.
In the eyes of the veneer. And like Sophie, they use their humanity as a tool, right? They recruit other humans and, honestly, veneer who want to support humans by saying, hey, we're humans. We're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And honestly, they're not.
I love the choice of, like, you would assume human equals good in this book, right? Because they're the oppressed. They're the ones who are trying to find justice in their own space to be equal.
Right.
But to have an organized rebel group, that is clearly not good. They are, like, SGM goes out of her way to show that they are muddied and, you know, obviously they're not as bad as the Asteri, but, like, they're not innocent either.
Right. They're the perfect example of the ends do not justify the means.
Yeah. And it's like there's a point to all of it.
Yeah.
We'll tell you that in 15 episodes.
So I want to go back to the shepherd quote that Jac read a moment ago. There's another way to look at this scene from my perspective. Sophie thinks that she does, quote, not mind letting a little of the monster loose. And for her, that means the veneer side of her. She is the monster. In some ways, she's casting judgment on herself by calling herself the monster. And in doing so, she creates distance and a power differential between her and Emile, who's the shepherd. And I want to suggest that this symbol or this metaphor of her being the monster, Emile being the shepherd, is actually a clue to the fact that Emile is in fact human.
Oh.
He is not a
All
monster.
Right. Convince me. No, you did it.
I was going to say, I already did it. I did the work.
You did. You did. Good job. I'm convinced.
During the escape, we learn that Sophie's parents were quote, tortured until the brutal end by the Hind. Now, the narrative throughout this entire prologue and later on in the book is setting us up to have a very specific view of the Hind, and also known as Lydia Servos. And, you know, Lydia's done a lot to deserve that perception.
Yes.
Which means it's very curated.
Yep.
But by having this curated perception of her, we adopt that perception. Because, well, if she tortured parents and...
She tortured parents. She's defending a death camp that has children in it. She's going to drown Sophie in a way that, reading it does remind me, I'm jumping to the end of this, like, prologue, but it reminds me of just, like, you know, drowning's not great.
No.
That's a horrible way to go.
Yeah.
But we find out that that's actually, like, her being kind and sympathetic.
Yeah.
So, you know, it is a curated way of going about things. Yeah. But, you know, Lydia, we're Lydia fans here.
We are, but SGM does not want us to be at the start.
Joke's on you. Big fan.
Now, before we go further into the escape, I don't think we can continue without acknowledging that there are World War II references. There's an aura about the death camp that really reflects the concentration camps of World War II.
Yep.
And we're not the only ones who've made this comparison. Many individuals on social media have compared the Kavalla death camp to concentration camps run by Nazi Germany. Now, remember, SGM is Jewish, so the Shoah, or the Holocaust, is an undeniable connection here. And that connection's deepened by how Sophie's grandparents are treated. Quote, her grandparents had been herded off upon reaching the Brackus camp in the north and shot in a lineup of other elders, their bodies left to crumple into a mass grave. And that's all I'm going to say on this, is that the connection exists. Yep. We recognize that the connection exists, But I also want to acknowledge that we're not necessarily the experts here.
I don't know much about World War II. Like I know a fair amount and everything. We don't know. I think it's fair to make the comparison. I don't know enough about history to find other comparisons.
Yeah, and I think we would be doing it a disservice
to dismiss it entirely and not talk about it. Yeah.
But also to try to dive into it because we're not educated enough on the topic.
No. I mean, I've seen a lot of movies, but I'm not going to quote anything that pretending like I know something. But yeah, I think that, in the first book, definitely got elements of it, of the humans being treated as second-class citizens, not being taken seriously. And in this book, I really was picking up on the World War II imagery there. So yeah, we recognize it, we see it. Give me 5 years, become a historian, and I'll come back to it.
I think you need more than 5 years.
All right, so like 5 months, 5-hour docuseries. That's what I can give you. Excuse us while we hydrate, and you listen to this ad.
As we all know, Amy, I am a superhero because thick thighs save lives. However, those thighs sometimes need a little extra love, and Lumi has been so helpful for getting that inner friction taken care of there.
I'll be honest, I've used Lumi in my pits, under my tits, between my hips. Actually, it's really my thighs, but close enough. What's even better is that Lumi was created by an OBGYN who saw firsthand how normal BO was and is constantly misdiagnosed and mistreated.
The fact that an OBGYN is the one who created Lumi is what actually makes me feel a lot more comfortable of using it down there. Because you don't want to just put anything there.
No, that is like the number one rule.
I was also really surprised of all the places that you could put Lumi. You have your under boob, you can have your butt crack, you can have your vulva, you can use it on your feet.
It blows my mind that Lumi has been clinically proven to block odor all day and control your BO for up to 72 hours.
I can't stand being sweaty or smelly. You know how I feel about smelling like an outside person.
I was just telling my partner yesterday how much you hate smelling like an outside person.
Lumi is baking soda free and paraben free, and the pH balance is safe for use below the belt.
You can choose from a variety of fresh, bright scents like clean tangerine, lavender sage, or toasted coconut, and nothing has made me more happy than my lavender body soap going with my Lumi lavender sage scent deodorant.
Lumi starter pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick of deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice like a mini wash or deodorant wipes, and free shipping. As a special offer for listeners, new customers get 15% off all Lumi products with our exclusive code, and if you combine the 15% off with the already discounted starter pack, that equals over 40% off their starter pack. Use code BOOKTALK for 15% off your purchase at lumideodorant.com. That's BOOKTALK at LUMIDEODORANT.com. And that's promo code BOOKTALK, BOOKTALK.
Fall has officially started here in Los Angeles, and that means we finally get to do fall activities.
I have been counting down the days for when I can go to pumpkin patches, maybe even hit up an apple orchard, and I get to do all of it looking super cute in my Quince boyfriend sweater.
This weather is perfect for my dark academia vibes, and I'm so excited to bust out my washable silk blouse because I'm going to be taking pictures.
Quince is known for their Mongolian cashmere sweaters from $50. And that's not all. Quince has so many other amazing things on their website.
All of those items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands.
That includes leather jackets, cotton cardigans, soft denim. Like my entire fall wardrobe is genuinely turning into Quince wardrobe.
By partnering directly with top factories and cutting out the cost of the middleman, we get savings as the customer.
One of my favorite parts about Quince is the fact that they only work with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices. And they still manage to get premium fabrics and finishes for that, luxury feeling for every item that they have.
Get cozy in Quince's high-quality wardrobe essentials. Go to quince.com/booktalk for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's Quince, QUINCE.com/booktalk, BOOKTALK, to get free shipping and 365-day returns. That's quince.com/booktalk.
We learn more about what Sophie has done for her sacrifice, emotionally, to be a spy, and everything that goes into it. Quote, she didn't let herself think about what she'd done in return for that information. The spying, the people she'd killed to collect whatever intel Ophion wanted. These things weighed on her soul like a leaden cloak. This is all a warning for Bryce to me. I mean, a warning that clearly Bryce doesn't hear because it's not being told to her, but this is just kind of like what's to come, that we can see more female characters are willing to sacrifice everything. And, you know, Bryce is going to sacrifice elements of herself to this. You know, think about what's going to happen in book 3. She's going to literally, I mean, she doesn't kill her dad, but like damn close to it.
Yeah, that's fair.
You know?
Yeah.
Shit goes down.
Shit does go down. You who said you would not be swearing.
Damn it. I think it's just, I can't say the F-bomb.
Okay.
My mom will get mad.
Okay. Something that I want to bring up in this prologue is that we should be questioning Sophie's reliability as a narrator. She has manipulated Ophion in order to get here, in order to make sure that she can find her brother.
Mm-hmm.
She, quote, knew she was an asset, but with the Vanir blood in her veins, Ophion would never trust her. Friends did not exist within the Ophion rebel network. The thing about not trusting someone, when someone doesn't trust you, oftentimes you don't trust them back.
Yeah, that happens.
That does happen.
That does.
And so for Sophie to say Ophion doesn't trust her, it's implied to me that Sophie doesn't trust Ophion.
Yep.
Right?
True.
And we see that in her actions with the manipulation of information,
Yeah.
etc.
Yeah.
And I think that this is important as we read this prologue, because SJM is, to me, is clearly calling out like, hey, why are you trusting Sophie?
And Sophie's going about hiding information too.
Right.
In the sense that she is so, like, not even telling the reader anything.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to hold back because SJM doesn't want us to know all the secrets too.
Right.
But it just adds to this level of like not trusting anything. Like
Yeah.
Sophie doesn't even trust her own thoughts.
Yeah. So, and doesn't trust her own thoughts. She doesn't trust Agent Silverbow with information.
If you don't trust Agent Silverbow, and at this point, granted, I know nothing about him other than a badass name.
Yeah.
You know, like, okay, you made this point that you shared your soul with someone,
Yeah.
but you're not willing to trust that person
With information.
with information.
Yeah.
As someone who just like loves telling people secrets, that's not true. As someone who loves to tell Amy literally anything that happens to me, I could not imagine not telling you something.
I also just want to make a moment to point out that when Sophie reflects on her being interrogated and tortured, that she thinks about how her theater minor came in real handy. And I laughed so hard because I work in higher education. I'm like, I can guarantee the theater minors of today don't have this opportunity to use their theater minor while being tortured.
It's so funny that it's like that was the credit that she gave to. Like, I wonder if SJM threw that in for someone.
I feel like, I wonder if she had a theater minor, to be honest.
Something, because it's just like no theater major will get you through torture.
No.
None at all.
It's just like trying to give credit to these minors that have no value in real life. I'm sorry for anyone who has a theater minor. I'm so sorry.
Well, I'm not. It's like, because like, I don't think you can survive torture, man. Like, I don't think you can act your way through torture. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm a bad actor. Could I write my way out of torture? I don't think so. I could talk my way out of it. There was like a note that like Sophie's nails were gone too, which I'm like, ew. Like I have a Band-Aid because my Gel X nail is loose.
Oh,
like poor me, and I don't want to like pop it off.
Yeah.
So
it's a cute Band-Aid.
It is a cute Band-Aid. It has hearts and they're gold and yellow. They're yellow and red and blue.
Very cute.
Thank you. The theme of using feminine as the weapon. We saw that in book 1, House of Earth and Blood, talked about it a lot, saying, you know, Bryce was the queen of weaponizing the feminine and feminizing weapons.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like we're here. Sophie is doing the exact same thing. Quote, "They'd thrown her into the cattle car with the others, convinced she was a foolish human girl who'd been given the documents by a lover who'd used her." She's playing into this dumb girl thing of like, the boy broke my heart. I can't handle it. Take me to your torture camp. Oh, I'm so sad.
Oh, I didn't know these papers were fake.
My boyfriend had the papers. He was a big, strong, manly man. Yeah. But like, it's like, I get it. She did a great job. It's that theater minor.
It really is.
She gave herself a backstory. She was sitting there being like, okay, what's my motivation? What's my and scene? Let's go. Sorry, theater majors. This is
minors.
I'm just saying anyone in theater. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to be trolling you guys. A little bit.
We're really trolling Sophie. We're not trolling them. We're trolling Sophie.
Yeah, remember, if your feelings are hurt, it's Sophie that we're going after.
Sophie's problem.
It's Sophie's problem. We love you.
Sophie is made up.
Yeah.
It's fine.
We can shit on her. It's fine.
When Sophie finds Emile, he happens to be in the food line, which I thought was an interesting tidbit. So if we think about food being a symbol for power, or food is power, in this case, I tied it to the fact that Emile is Sophie's cause. For the first time for her to see her brother in 3 years, next to food, is kind of a sign that, like, it's a renewal of strength for Sophie. Yep. And I thought that was a pretty good choice.
I think it's a really good way of looking at food as power. Like, that's a wonderful way of looking at it. There's other ways of, like, you know, he's so emaciated despite being near this literal power source. Mm-hmm. There's, you know, we kind of have like the Jesus imagery. And, you know, I'm not saying that he's like handing bread around to everyone, but like there's a lot that goes into this moment where the first time we see him, he's associated with food. Mm-hmm. And he's a big power player in this book.
Yeah, he really is.
I hope we get more food as power in this book.
I do too. I do also want to point out here, though it happens again later, that Sophie sees both of her parents in Emile. Yeah. And it's really mournful because Emile is the only family that she has left. And she kind of honors, or she sees her brother as honoring them in his mannerisms and the way he looks. And the way we get her perspective on it kind of fills me with dread. It fills me with the foreboding of that, like, she's mourning how much time has passed. Yeah. And also the potential that she'll never see him again.
Yeah, she definitely goes into this like not really believing she's going to survive. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think she had a positive attitude going into this.
Maybe if she had believed more.
Maybe if she just like manifested. That's not a shame. I like to do manifestation practices. That's no shame to it. But like,
no.
It's like, you know, I just think, you know, if you just have a positive mindset,
Jac manifested a lot of my life for me.
I manifested Amy her ass over here. That's what I did. Closer and closer till you're just
6 minutes away.
6 minutes away. Yeah. As Sophie escapes with the kids, she uses some of her powers to open up the gate. Quote, "Through her, into her, becoming her to use as she wishes. The power of Vanir becomes hers to use, not her turning into Vanir." I think that's a really big point there. And it's a big theme for Bryce. It's a big theme for Bryce as well. It's going to be her claiming her humanity, where it's like she owns the power. Power does not own her.
Yeah.
And actually, as I was reading this out loud, through her, into her, becoming her. That's like a religious, like in Catholic, through me, with me. I haven't been to church in a really long time. But like,
sorry, Maria.
Yeah. Through her, into her, through you, with me, in me. Like, but when you're about to take the host, that's what you recite.
During communion?
During communion, I think. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, and into the through you, with you, and into the power. Yeah. So peace be with. Yeah, all that stuff. But like, I'm like, oh shit, that's like definitely another religious imagery there.
Yeah.
Too.
Interesting. I will say the tone of this section makes me feel like Sophie reveres her own strength and her own powers. She thinks of it as rare, which factually is true. But let me read it. Quote, even First Light could not stand against her power. No, I didn't write down the rare quote. Never mind, sorry. But not only can she manipulate electricity, she can manipulate First Light, and she thinks of her power as rare. To me, that has reverence connotations, and she almost comes across as a god herself, right?
Yeah.
The god that combats the false god Asteri.
It's true. There's like, I mean, she recognizes that she is like the second coming of phoenixes. She is this god, like her type of Vanir was so powerful, the Asteri went and killed them all off. And now here she comes with her great grandmother is the one who was a phoenix, and now she's getting that power.
Not Phoenix, Thunderbird.
No. Thunderbird. And she's, you know, like there's understanding and respect to her power. And to your point, it is giving godlike symbolism and that sacrifice. Again, coming back to religious Christian imagery, you know, like the sacrifice. Like we have Emile who's kind of standing in for Jesus, but you also have Sophie who's willing to sacrifice herself. And there's a lot going on.
There is a lot going on. And we're barely on page 6.
I know.
Am I the only person who thought the description of them escaping through the fence sounded like a birthing scene?
Yes, but I'm willing to be convinced.
Quote, she rent the last of the fence and peeled apart the 2 flaps, barely wide enough for her to fit through. Stop it.
Sorry, go ahead. Just flaps. Go ahead. Continue.
Sophie peeled the fence apart wider, arms straining, metal biting into her hands, grunting at the children to run, run, run. It's a rebirth or a resurrection.
Imagining like grabbing
through
flaps,
a metal vagina.
through like flaps of someone's vagina, going inside, be like, run, get out of there. Get in.
I was thinking like push.
No, you're right.
Just want to put it out there. But in a lot of ways, it's
true.
It's a resurrection for Emile and
Yes.
these children.
I see it now. I see it. I was just like, whenever I have a baby and I'm in labor, I want you to go down there. I want you to go down there.
Oh my god.
Heart. Run. I want you in the room right there with me.
I'm just visualizing me yelling into your vagina. Run! You don't want to come here.
This isn't it. This isn't the year. Get back. At least we know what my birthing plan is.
Yeah. Screw whatever man is in your life.
I know. It's going to be you, me yelling at my vagina. I'm not pregnant, guys. You need to have someone for that. Continue.
Could also be a turkey baster.
True.
Or IVF.
No, true. But you still require sperm.
That's true.
I have none of the above. God. I'm so sorry. Just to the world.
I'm not.
Just to the world. So we meet Agent Silverbow, aka Cormac, or as I will call him, Core Daddy.
Core Daddy. What about Mac Daddy? I'm shocked you didn't come up with that yourself.
Core Mac Daddy. I mean, he's just...
Or Mac Daddy Core.
I mean, when I said Core Daddy, like he was the core of this, like the core group of daddies in here.
Oh, okay.
But like, I like Mac Daddy. He's going to be interchangeable.
Okay.
I am a simp for Cormac.
You are.
I don't know why. Maybe this analysis will help me. Anyway, here's the first reason why I laugh at him. He has an accent. He's like really tall. And he has an accent. And in the book it kind of sounds a little Scottish.
Yeah, it does.
In the audio. So we get a lot of clues about who he is, right? We know he's going to be Cormac, and we don't know...
Only because we've read this book before.
We've read this book, but at this point, we don't know Cormac exists. We don't know that he's Agent Silverbow, but we do get little bits of breadcrumb that I'm going to say here and not at the end of the episode. So it's like we have his accent and then hints about the power, you know, that we kind of get. He can show up and help her if he knows the location.
Yeah.
So like SJM does a great job of leaving those little clues.
Yeah.
And stuff. You yelling into my vagina. This is just episode 1.
It's gonna be a good season, guys.
Who knows? This could have been where we peaked with yelling into a vagina. I think that Cormac is also meant to kind of mimic Ruhn and Lydia's relationship, right? Like Sophie never learns Cormac's name. He is Agent Silverbow to her. They kind of meet while spying and stuff. And that's like giving a little bit of Ruhn and Lydia too, right?
That's fair.
But I also feel like Sophie and Cormac show and represent Bryce and Hunt as well. And I think that Cormac's story is what would happen if Hunt fully did what Bryce asked.
Instead of like resisting?
Yes.
Interesting.
Because Cormac does what Sophie wanted, and they both die in the end.
Yeah.
Like, and he sacrifices himself for, you know, to be with her. And I think, you know, like we have Sophie running away trying to save the kids, and you know, like Cormac is like, okay, you know, I'm gonna do what you asked. Like he's not happy about it, but like I feel like Hunt would and have done literally anything to go say like, screw it, Emile, you're 13, you can reach the pedal to the metal, go drive yourself. Something. But I have a quote here. Quote.
You need to stop.
It's my brand now.
It really is. You've been doing it since season 1.
Yeah. But Sophie understood Pippa's devotion. She herself had grown up, passing as fully human after all, had learned exactly how they were treated by the Vanir. Some things, some experiences, Silver could never understand. And this is SGM literally yelling at us that this is what Hunt isn't going to be able to get. Just like Silverbow doesn't understand Sophie's experience, Hunt can't understand Bryce's. And that's going to be a big pushing sore point in this book for them.
Yeah, I mean, Bryce herself thinks about how Hunt can't understand what it means to be human.
Yeah. And that's why I feel like Silverbow and Hunt and Bryce and Sophie are more linked.
I see it. I think another quote that in my mind ties this comparison of Sophie Cormac and Bryce Hunt is Sophie thinks of Cormac, or Agent Silverbow, quote, he understood, he'd always understood. And Bryce and Hunt think that about each other.
Yeah.
Like, he always understands how I feel in terms of, like, whatever the case is. I'm not being very eloquent right now, whatever. But I do agree with your assessment that they are mirrors of each other, and sometimes they operate the same way, and sometimes they take different paths.
Yeah.
I do want to point out a description that stood out to me about the city of Servast. So this is where Sophie, Cormac, and the kids drive to catch a boat to head towards Pippa. The description of Servast is, quote, one of the vital depots along the spine, the north-south network of train tracks that provided ammo and supplies to the Imperial troops. Now, in this prologue, Sophie starts by surviving the death camp, only to then be sent to a watery grave. In this book, Cormac starts in the prologue going to a city along the spine where all this Imperial stuff is, and he ends this book going back to a similar place and
blowing
being killed.
It up. Yeah, I love that.
So their journeys echo each other.
Yeah.
They're just over a different span of time.
It makes me mad because that means he is dead.
I thought it was confirmed.
Not in my heart.
I'm pretty sure. I know you're a Cormac truther, but he's dead. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Now, I wanted to go back to something else that you said. I can't remember if this is confirmed, but I believe Sophie and Cormac are mates.
Yeah, I think so.
And we see that, or hinted at here, when Sophie thinks of, quote, their bodies and souls merging. Sounds very mate-like to me.
Sounds like Bryce and Hunt when they have sex later.
Well, and Feyre and Rhysand and Frost and Starlight.
And Reese and Lydia. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of souls merging here.
Yep. The atmosphere in Servast also is foreshadowing that this evening is not going to go well. And I want to point that out because it's simple, but SJM just does a really good job setting up that dread in her narrative style.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's worth pointing out. Quote, "It was as if the streets of Servast had been emptied in advance of their arrival, as if its citizens, mostly poor fisher folk, had hunkered down, some instinct bleeding that the fog was not to be braved, not this night." I mean, not only like this idea that everything's empty, but the fog is always eerie and foreboding, always spells danger. Like, it's very atmospheric.
Mm-hmm. I also like how it smells.
Fog?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all.
Okay.
Yeah. Sophie and co, like you're saying, they're running, they're in this town, and the wolves are after them, and no one is there to help. Quote, "She could feel eyes on her from behind the closed shutters, but no one opened the door to offer help." And it reminds me a lot of Bryce in Sky and Breath. Nope. CC1. This is why I just say book
Earth
one.
and Blood.
Earth and Blood. It reminds me a lot of Bryce during Earth and Blood because no one came out to help her, and Bryce was running around asking for help, like literally someone, anyone, come get her. It reminds me of Land Before Time. Never mind. Another tragic one. Lion King. Someone, anyone,
No.
help.
Stop.
Dad, wake up.
Stop. Copyright infringement.
Oh, right.
In this moment, Sophie, like Hunt, thinks, quote, the world could go to hell because she's not focused on saving Cormac, but she's focused on saving Emile. And I feel the same about Hunt. Like, Hunt's like, y'all can go jump in a lake. I need to save Bryce.
Yeah.
I don't care what happens to the rest of the world.
Yep.
I think it's at this point in the prologue that we begin to understand that Sophie told Ophian something to believe Emile's an asset, right? She just said, she's very vague, and you progressively get a little bit more information as the prologue goes on. So at this point, we think, oh, okay, so Ophian thinks Emile's an asset, and that's why they're going to show up. And the rest of the prologue thereon colors our interpretation of Emile and whether or not he is an asset. And I think that that's important to note because, like I was saying earlier, should we be trusting anything Sophie says?
Not a damn thing. Never
Probably
trust
not.
anyone. Don't trust
someone who doesn't trust anybody.
Truth.
I mean, she doesn't even tell Silverbow, her potential mate, anything.
No.
That is true.
Yep.
So when Sophie thinks that Ophian doesn't care who Emile is, just, quote, what she told them he could do, I want to look at the use of those words. The use of told. It's not, quote, what he could do. It's, quote, what she told them he could do. And already in the narrative and in her own thought process, we're getting clues that Emile's not actually what you think he is.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, you don't question it, though.
You don't.
You're like, yep, that's what you told them. And I just love those little tiny things to add.
I do want to point out that when Emile and Sophie part, Emile's last words to Sophie are, make him pay.
Yeah.
And I felt that, I don't know, I get it. Like, in the sense that, like, it's not I love you, like, because that doesn't need to be said. It's give him hell.
I think he knows her power.
Yeah.
And I think he knows that she's not going to live. I think this is him being like, kill them all.
Yeah.
Do what you got to do.
Yeah.
Blow this shit up.
Yeah. Take down as many as you can.
Yep. Like, just, he's been in a death camp for 3 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
He gets it.
And that, to me, that does also speak of some strength in the sense that, I don't know, I'd be crying and be like, I love you so much.
I'm scared.
Yeah,
I don't like it. Can I just go hide over here, please? Yeah, no, we wouldn't do great.
Instead, he's like, make him pay, and he runs.
Yeah.
After Emile runs, we then see the Hind for the first time. And we haven't ever seen the Hind before.
We've heard of her.
We've heard of her, but we have never seen her in Crescent City until this moment. And the Hind is described as a golden-haired female. Now, granted, it is the first time we're seeing her. We don't need to know this information, though. It does nothing for the context of this moment, except that gold is the opposite of silver. So it's just another visual clue putting the Hind on the opposite end of Agent Silverbow and Ophian and other rebels. So I just liked that we had that visual representation of the Hind being on a different side.
Yes. And we have, teasing out that she's going to be Agent Daylight, Day's Gold.
Daybright.
Daylight. I was thinking about Taylor's song, Daylight.
Yeah.
And she says gold and stuff. So, yeah.
Now, the Hind is also immediately called the Hind, a deer shifter. But a Hind is a stag, which is a more imposing, intimidating version of a deer.
Yeah.
A deer is supposed to be like Bambi.
Yeah.
Whereas the stag has antlers and attacks. If it weren't enough to be compared to a stag to make her intimidating, there's a point where, quote, the Hind's golden eyes glowed like coals in the dimness. And that sounds like a demon to me.
Yeah.
That sounds very demonic. And I think that continues to solidify what our understanding is of the Hind.
Yeah. Do you think SJM assumed everyone would know what Hind means?
No.
Or like we'd look it up? Because I confused it for hound or like hiney, like a butt. Like your back hind,
Okay.
like behind,
Oh, Yeah. I see.
Yeah, like, there was a lot of things, like, I just never thought it was a dumb nickname. I like it now.
Now that you know what it means.
Yeah, like, I respect it. It's still not the name I would choose for her, but, like,
Yeah.
I get what she's doing. I think it makes sense, but, like, it just was, it's not a nickname. It's not a name that, like, instills fear. The Hind.
Right.
Which maybe, I don't know.
It's the connotation of how many people she's killed that makes it scary.
That's true. You kill enough people, any name could be scary.
Yeah, that's right.
That's a life lesson. So the sequence of Sophie running away, I feel like mimics Lydia's own near-death experience.
That happens in Flame of Shadow.
Flame and Shadow, yeah. So, like, they kind of both get chased to water, essentially. But Sophie doesn't jump. She gets captured. Lydia jumps. I think Lydia's just kind of like, she's running. She was like, don't make the same mistake, risk it. And she goes in. But yeah, I felt it was just like, it mimicked it a lot.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point because I didn't think of it.
I'm going to read a few lines that are over the course of 2 pages, but it's going to make sense when I'm done. In regards to Sophie's power, quote, the gift more legend than truth these days had resurfaced in Sophie, literally Bryce. When thinking about Ophian, quote, she hated them almost as much as she hated the Asteri and the world they built. That's what Bryce is going to learn about. And then when thinking about the cause and winning the war, quote, a free world would be wonderful, but what did it matter if she had no family to share it with? And that's also going to be what Bryce and Hunt are trying to figure out. And I feel like those few thoughts are a letter to Bryce in many ways. A letter that Bryce will not see. This isn't literally a letter to Bryce, but it's reflecting what Bryce's journey is going to be.
Yeah, if you really think about it, this prologue is almost a little map.
Yeah.
Of what's to come. And SJM accomplishes that in like 20 pages.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Just talent.
Very talented. Now, at the end of the prologue, we get to Pippa's point of view. And because she has come to believe that Emile is also a Thunderbird, like Sophie, because of Sophie's essentially lies, we believe that Emile is responsible for taking down the Omega boats because of the limited point of view that Pippa has. She doesn't see Emile take down the Omega boats. She sees him fall to his knees as the Omega boats go down.
Yep.
And we are also led to believe that he is then responsible.
Yep.
And I love this quote. I had to point it out. Pippa's blood sang at the terrible glory of it. I don't know. Something about that is just fantastic.
I also can't help but think about Peppa Pig. It's Peppa Pig.
I know.
I just imagine like a little pig cartoon.
My. Sorry, Pippa. You didn't deserve the comparison. There's a description of the magic that takes down the Omega boats. It looks like, quote, a stretching hand under the water. And if you think about it, it's actually Sophie's hand. And we get a clue about that when we return to Sophie's point of view. She's described as laying on the dock, quote, An arm dangled off the deck of the dock.
Yep.
Where could it be? But in the water. Is that how she used her magic?
Wait. Well, she dies and she sinks, and we never see her body again.
Right.
So this is the arm is before...
No, so she's not dead yet. She's just lying on the dock.
Captured.
She hasn't been captured yet. She's
Yeah.
just been shot.
Right.
And her arm is off the dock while the Omega boats are taken down, and the magic looks like a stretching hand. So it's almost as if
her hand
was actually in the water.
Stretching it.
Stretching.
Yeah, I love that. I
thought it was a good visual and a clue.
I approve.
Thank you.
Sophie's death, we get her perspective. And, it's interesting reading it because at the very end, we'll get a different perspective on how Sophie died. Is it in this book or the second book? In the third book, where we get Lydia's perspective on it?
I think it's at the end of... I think it's the
one.
Epilogue of this book.
I think so. We'll find out.
Yeah, I can't remember.
We'll find out. But that was just the epilogue, guys. Like that...
Prologue.
This was just the prologue.
Yeah.
And I will say, we didn't do this enough last season. Chef's kiss. This prologue is chef's kiss.
It is.
She does a lot. It maps out what's to come.
Mm-hmm.
Not just plot-wise, but like character themes, character development, all of these things.
Yep.
By using a character that we're going to meet once and never again.
Yeah. But we're going to hope to find for a good chunk of this book.
Yep.
Amazing.
I'm just still sad and mad about Mac Daddy.
Mac Daddy.
Forever and always. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Book Talk for Book Talk by Jac and Amy. Stick around for part 2, which airs on Thursday.
We encourage you to rate and subscribe to our show on your preferred podcast listening platform. We would love to hear your thoughts based on today's conversation. You can submit your comments to our form at booktalkforbooktalk.com for a chance to have your feedback discussed during a future mini episode or on our Patreon exclusive episodes.
If you're enjoying the podcast, please visit our website, booktalkforbooktalk.com, to view our latest merch and learn about supporting the show through Patreon or Venmo.
Bye.
Oh, it's so nice now. We get to look at each other. Beep boop. Beep boop, beep boop. I'm just testing now. Beep boop, beep boop, bop. We need to wear socks in the future. I need to wear socks in the future. We don't show feet for free.
We make people pay for that shit.
You pay for that shit. I want to cover my little toesies.
Fall has officially started here in Los Angeles, and that means we finally get to do fall activities.
I have been counting down the days for when I can go to pumpkin patches, maybe even hit up an apple orchard, and I get to do all of it looking super cute in my Quince boyfriend sweater.
This weather is perfect for my dark academia vibes, and I'm so excited to bust out my washable silk blouse because I'm going to be taking pictures.
Quince is known for their Mongolian cashmere sweaters from $50. And that's not all. Quince has so many other amazing things on their website.
All of those items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands.
That includes leather jackets, cotton cardigans, soft denim. Like my entire fall wardrobe is genuinely turning into Quince wardrobe.
By partnering directly with top factories and cutting out the cost of the middleman, we get savings as the customer.
One of my favorite parts about Quince is the fact that they only work with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices. And they still manage to get premium fabrics and finishes for that, luxury feeling for every item that they have.
Get cozy in Quince's high-quality wardrobe essentials. Go to quince.com/booktalk for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's Quince, QUINCE.com/booktalk, BOOKTALK, to get free shipping and 365-day returns. That's quince.com/booktalk.